Chris, just a quick question. Can you recommend a reference book or website as a source for information about handling new media?
New media or red?
Not so much red, but no, new media, covering everything for H264. So I'm getting lots of bits and pieces from all over the place. I just want one source I can go back to and refer to.
There's nothing that's brilliant. Wikipedia is actually not bad, which is where I quickly grabbed most of this information from, just because if I was going to try and pull all that out of my brain and write it, was going to take me a month of Sunday, so I like copy and paste. I mean, that's all. There's a lot more on Wikipedia than that, and it's a lot more technical. I just cut it down so you all had an overview. It's
Quantel site, the Quantel Digital Handbook is now downloadable.
It's pretty good
off
as
their
well.
site. And they've been going for 10 or 12 years now. It's a great book.
Cool. It is a good book.
It's a really good primer. Just give you sort of 2-line, sentences describing various formats, and it's an A to Z, so you can look up anything. It's downloadable.
There's also the new second revision of the Art and Science of Digital Compositing. Although it's aimed at actually compositing, as a compositing book, it is a Bible.
I've actually got that at home.
It actually, not so much, I mean, it talks about compression, but it actually goes through thoroughly about colour spaces 422, 444, 420.
Sure, Art and Science of Digital.
By Ron Brickman.
So, Art and Science of Digital.
Of Digital Compositing.
Compositing by Ron Brickman.
That's really quite Ron Brickman, isn't it?
Brickman,
yeah. That is a must if you're getting in, not as an editor, because editors don't even want to know about RGB, we just want to cut pretty pictures. But if you're actually getting into the online side of things, that is a must-have Bible. Absolutely. Cool. It is something you can probably only read 3 pages at a time and then recover for a week.
That's right.
It is seriously heavy duty. Not just so much, I mean, it is seriously heavy duty as far as, compression, pixels, algorithms, formats go, but as far as keying techniques, grading techniques, understanding gamma versus brightness versus contrast, how all the curves work, lookup tables, all that sort of stuff. If you want to dive into it, go for it, but it's a huge amount of study.
But it's a good book. You can actually just break it down in chapters and take a little bit of time.
Just on that sort of reminds me, you're a fan of colour?
Colour?
You're a fan of colour?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Colour, as far as an actual colour grading program, is a really, really good program. The way it actually deals with colour and the way it actually deals with 444 RGB is certainly pretty much within the same specs of, say, something like a Lustre. Its file management is absolutely horrible, and there's a few little bugs in it too, and the fact that it can't go above 2K, which is okay for commercial work, but if you're starting to work with 4K plates for special effects work, it gets tricky. It's a really fast tool, fast for colour grading, and the fact we fortunately were about to buy it when it was final touch, and about to lay £25 on the table, and then Apple announced that they bought it and it's getting packaged, and I was like, I'm glad I got slacking that week and didn't sign a cheque. But I wouldn't have been disappointed if I had spent £25 on it, let's put it that way. That's how good it is. The only problem is you've got to know its limitations, and its biggest issue is they grabbed it and made it work with QuickTime. QuickTime definitely has its limitations, and there's a really tricky workaround for working in logarithmic scale with it. So you've got a major issue where DPXs work very well as a log file, and DPXs are pretty much industry standard around the world for working with log files. Unfortunately, colour works with DPXs, but only at 24 frames a second. So then you've got to do all the mathematics with all your EDLs and everything to work in Australia, which is a pretty downfall. Spent a lot of time trying to solve. But look, as far as a colour grading program, it's brilliant. The one thing I will say about colour grading will be interesting. It sounds like you're having a big colour grading night. Colour grading is a wonderful thing, like editing is. It's a different skill, obviously, to editing.
And aesthetic training as well as a technical training.
There is a lot to learn about colour grading. It's just like editing, like you can learn Final Cut, but there's a big difference between learning Final Cut and learning how to truly edit with, continuity and crossing the line and correction and screen direction and all that sort of stuff. Colour correcting is exactly the same. I colour graded for years and years and years as an online operator and thought I was brilliant at it, and became best mates with Marty Greer, who's pretty much the best guy in town, and sat down with him and went, I don't have a single clue how to colour grade. Unfortunately, traded some edit time for some colour grading time and got a few very good tips. It's a feel thing, but then there's a lot to learn. You know, it's fine for a client to come in and go, oh, you know, I want the background to be really red, but the skin tones are too pink, so can you pull that back? And you know, if you don't know much about colour grading, you could be cutting the person out. But you know, once you do know a lot about colour grading, it's a matter of twisting, you know, between your mids, your highs, and your lows, and you know the way you massage things, and whether you're adding gamma to channels or the still, and all the different formats. So there's actually quite in-depth colour grading, even though you think it's just red, green and blue and you've got mids, highs and lows, it's actually quite in-depth, which colour does actually handle. It's got some lovely tools in it to handle that stuff. It's got 8 secondaries, which usually pulls you out of most jobs, especially coming from telecine that usually only ever had 2 or 3 secondaries, so having 8's a luxury. I'm sure all the clients will get used to that soon, and also we'll be having 16 windows. But 8 usually gets you out of trouble. The tracker in it's quite good. There's a bug in it. As long as you know about it, you can avoid that. But generally, it's a good tool, but it does take a bit to learn it. It's like Final Cut. You know, you learn Final Cut in the first week, and you know you can get by 80% of the things. But then it's the little bugs that we learn along the way, the syncing audio, and you know, you group a clip audio clip to a video track, and you pull it up, but then you can't frame match into your sequence because the audio slips out of sync. So it's a bug you've got to avoid, so you've got to edit a different way, and you know, you can't drop a interlaced clip into a non-interlaced timeline because it'll defield it, and half the commercials I see on air now are defielded because obviously people are doing that. So there's all, like every software program, and it's not just limited to your tools like Final Cut, which is obviously a desktop tool that costs $199 or whatever it costs nowadays. You go on a $700,000 Flame, or you know, $400,000 DS or whatever, and I've worked on them all. They've all got bugs. As an operator, you learn all those bugs, so when you're in a session, you know how to avoid them all. And software is always going to be like that, unfortunately. You know, hopefully we get an update for Final Cut this year. Hopefully they put the out point in the right spot, because that's my biggest beef about Final Cut. That's just the dumbest thing, like, you know, back one frame out. Yeah, next edit, back one frame out. I've had the argument with Apple, and they say that no, they want to see the out point when they're sitting on it. It's like, we're editors, we know what the out point looks like. Out, listen to the word out. We're over, we're out, we're finished. Not one more frame later. So, you know, there's a few little things that I think, really simple things that they can fix in Final Cut that will make it really brilliant. But, you know, people that cross, I haven't cut on Avid for a few years now, but, you know, I used to get sick of one and jump on the other, and they go, oh, that's right, I forgot that you can't do speed ramps on, you know, stuff with alpha channels in Avid. It drives me nuts, you know, or, you know, the trim tool you used to go into just to trim a clip, and all I want to do is take one frame off it, you know. So there's pros and cons to both editors, you know, and then, you know, everybody starts raving at Premiere and how good it is now and all that sort of stuff, and you load it up and you start to edit it and you just go, no way, no, I'm going back to Final Cut. It is what you get used to, as long as you know the tool. Editing is about the edit, not about the tool.
Just